Alright, T2 Book Club. Again, I have finished Mistborn and I have some hot takes. First of all, on a scale of 1 to 10, this is like on a lot of people's top 10 lists. Some people probably their favorite book of all time. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. So this is the book that I started. I read like 30 pages and I put it down and I came back to it. And around page 35 it got good. And I was like, oh, okay. So the reason I did not like it at first is because I was talking in another video about how the Gundam anime do this thing where they talk about they get too world buildy in like, what is that like time period? It's like not really medieval. It's not really like Jane Austen times. What are those things called? It's like the aristocracy. I don't like aristocratic bullshit where there's a lot of like dukes and earls and kingdoms and politics and balls and bullshit like that. I can't stand it. I just don't have time for it. And Brandon Sanderson said that this book was going to take place like in a place like Lord of the Rings, but instead of like the hobbits take the ring and they throw it in the mountain and the bad guy dies and it doesn't make any sense. Like, that was way too easy. This is going to be set in a world where that didn't happen and the bad guy won. So everything's all fucked. So he starts out with the world is all fucked. So there's a place called Luthadel. It's like the center of the dominance of the Lord Ruler, because he's like the main bad guy, right? He's like Sauron or whatever. And there's volcanoes around it. And it's constantly like raining ash, and there's no greenery, there's no trees, there's like brown plants. And they talk about like, I think he fucked up on this. They talk about having vegetables. They had vegetables, but they said something about there was no flowers, and they said like the fruits come from the flowers, or they used to. But if they have fruits now, how did those fruits come? Did they not come out of flowers? Yeah. So I had like a picture of a flower. It didn't make no sense. So at the beginning of the book, like, I thought it spent way too much time talking about slavery and how bad these people, what are they called? I don't remember what they're called. The slaves. What are the slaves called? The Ska, right? So the main character's named Vin. She's a Ska. There's another thing that I don't like about it. It's like, in fantasy, you have a lot of different kind of races. You got dwarves, you got elves, you got humans, you got other stuff. They're all human, but there's like these Ska humans that are like slaves, and they don't even know if they're actually human because they're slaves or whatever. They don't know if they can be smart. It's like super racist. And then there's these other kind of people that are like super religious, and they keep the memories of the world, and they're like holy men, sort of, but those are also human. But like a lot of them are castrated. So it's kind of hard to keep track of like what's the difference. And they spent way too much time talking about, or I thought they spent way too much time talking about the slavery and the whole organization of the world and the politics and the stuff in the beginning. But after I got into it and I got to the end, I went back and I started reading the beginning again and I was like, oh, I don't remember reading any of this because I couldn't keep the characters straight. The other main character's name is Kelsier, and there was this whole thing with this guy he was like the slave master that Camon, and he's pretty much, after page 35 or so, he's out of the picture because Vin escapes him and goes work with Kelsier, and you never hear about him anymore. So they spent way too much time explaining like these, you got your noblemen, and you got these obligators, which sounds like they're just really suck-ups, like, I don't know if they have special powers or that some of them have this ability called allomancy, which is the whole thing that the book's about. And then you got these inquisitors, which they have kind of like allomancy but different, and they have spikes through their eyes, but they can see, and it doesn't really make sense. And they're pretty much immortal until the end. Explains like there's like these other spikes in them, and they're all connected. And if you remove one, then they're disconnected, and they have no power. Spoiler alert. But the main thing, I guess, that makes the book good is the magic system and the allomancy. because it's based on kind of alchemy and magic mixed together. So certain people can take these beads of metal or this alcohol solution of the bunch of metals, and they drink it and they get it inside their body and they can burn it, and they can use that to do different things. And one thing I didn't like is how he always explains it as either burning the metal or flaring the metal. Flaring the metal is like burning it really fast or whatever, doing like an extra boost, a nitro turbocharged burning of it. And the way he uses it as verbs, it kind of sounds cringy, like one of these young adult books. I wanted to talk about how young adult books are like these wolf romance books. They always say like, "Oh, I felt my wolf stir within me." It's kind of like that kind of cringiness where he says like that she flared her iron or something, or flared her steel. It's kind of like that wolf stirring within me kind of shit. Also, I thought like Aubrey Plaza might be good to play Vin. I don't know. I can't see her doing a lot of like acrobatics, but kind of reminded me of her. So anyway, after I get past the first 35 pages or so, it says all these names of dudes. Dachshund, Clubs, who's the other? Reddy. I don't remember Reddy. She also starts calling her ability Luck in the beginning. It's called Allomancy, but she always calls it Luck. But it's not luck. She's like manipulating people's emotions. That's the one ability she knew she had. But it has nothing to do with luck. It's just like tricking people. Who are all these other people? It's in the crew. See, Breeze, Ham. He never really explains what they look like. I know like Ham is kind of like the general of the armies. Doc, I think, was the guy that buys her a bunch of dresses and kind of does the money stuff. Breeze, he's kind of another guy that manipulates emotions. So all these people have one allomantic ability, and they kind of teach her because they're experts at it. But Vin and Kelsey are Mistborn, which means they can use all of the metals. Most people could just use one if you're like born into a nobleman's family or whatever, right? But then you got noblemen that don't have any abilities, like the guy that's the love interest later on. So how does the abilities work, right? There's a chart I could probably look up, but it's basically you got steel and iron, copper and brass, bronze, tin, a couple other crazy ones at the end. Gold, I think, was one, but it's not really that good. So basically, it's like Spider-Man, but reversed. See, nobody's ever made this connection. The steel, they all have like an internal and an external, and a pushing and a pulling. So steel is a push, iron is a pull. If there's something metal in the world, you burn your iron and you get these blue beams that shoot towards it, and you can see where the metal is everywhere. And you can pull on it. You can pull your stuff towards it, like Spider-Man with a whoop, pulling on it. But if you have steel, if you're a Mistborn, you can use both. So you flip a coin and you push on it, it hits the ground. Now you're pushing against the ground, because if you push against something that weighs less than you, it pushes it away. Push against something that weighs more than you, pushes you away. So you have to remember physics. So if you flip a coin, you push on it, you're shooting off the ground like you're pole vaulting, basically. And then you find something up here, you pull on it, and then you're going this way. And you can flip on it. So you don't really see anything, though. There's no webs. So if you're a guy watching somebody using allomancy, you don't even actually have to even put your hand out or anything. You just think about it, and it just happens. So you can be watching somebody doing this, and it'll just be like they're just burp, 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 just moving through the air. They could be doing a jig. They could be doing whatever. They don't even have to be doing anything acrobatic. It doesn't even make sense. But seems cool. That's just the iron and the steel. You also got like manipulating emotions and kind of like rioting, I think was one. That's zinc, I think. You can maybe people freak out, make them like kind of like using speech and Fallout. You know, you can make them like you, or you can suppress everybody's emotions. They have these people that the bad guys have all over the town that makes everybody suppress. That way they keep them in check, like the slaves. They keep them pressed. They don't reason that they're there. And then you got what was the other ones? There's a thing in the back of the book. The ending, I have to say, was top tier ending, because you think it's like What is it like? Who is it that always does it? Like the Orson Scott Card, where he does like a little paragraph before each chapter. You're reading the previous thing that happened in Atlantis, maybe, or one of those other books where the bad guy is on his way to the Well of Ascension to save the world. And he can either take the power for himself and it'll destroy the world, or kind of like destroy the world, I guess, or make it like it is now, or he can like use it to save the world, which I guess never happened. So you're wondering, like, something must have happened, because the whole thing you're reading is like this hero's journey. He's like a really great guy, but he turns out to be the Lord Ruler, so he must have done something fucked up. Something must have like changed his mind and turned him evil. So you're reading this whole story as they find this book. That's what it was. And the guy that's like the keeper, terracemen is what they're called. The terracemen that are castrated. He's like the keeper of all of the religions, and he also like can translate 150 languages or something shit. Some crazy, maybe 1,500 languages. He's translating this book, and you're reading it as you go, and you're learning more about the Lord Ruler's journey to the Well of Ascension and become what you think is about, but it's not really how it turns out in the end. It turns out really, really tricky at the end. There's a big twist to it, and then he like resolves it. And even after the whole ending is great and it resolves, he even goes a little bit further and he like explains more about like how everything happened. You don't really see a lot of that. Anyway, 10 enhances your senses. Pewter. Oh, pewter's a really important one because it makes you super strong, like the Hulk. So they have names for all this stuff too. If you're an iron guy, you pull on stuff. They call you a lurcher. Steel, you're a coin shot because you can like shoot coins like bullets pretty much, and just that's really powerful if you're a steel allomancer, I guess. 10 eyes, they can like see and hear crazy good, so they're like scouts. Pewter arms and thugs. For the pewter, you get to brass as a soother. Zinc is a writer. That's the emotional manipulation, soothing and writing. And then you got copper and bronze, which is like hiding allomancy, as a smoker. So if you have like, this is kind of all based on like a heist. The whole group is like a heist team. They're trying to like figure out a way to get the people to rebel, and they get these whole armies together and try and like take down the Lord Ruler. And you got Seekers, which reveals allomancy. So then you got gold and the other one, Atium. The Atium lets you see into the future, like 3 or 4 seconds or something. So you always be able to predict what's about to happen. So you're pretty much indestructible. Because somebody punches in, you know you're going to get punched. You just move. It's like you can't be touched. But it burns really fast and it's super expensive. So pretty dope. And then there's another one that makes you see like what you would have been in the past if you'd taken different paths in your life or something like that. Anyway, most of the book is about Vin going to these balls with the noblemen and trying to gain information to help Kelsier with his getting the whole heist planned out and getting troops. He's like also assassinating people and like killing the noblemen and causing chaos and confusion and just trying to get people out of the city so they can take over the main town and get it back. And it gets really good once all that stuff's going. Here's another thing that I didn't like though. Everybody talks about how a good fantasy book has to have a map in the front of it, right? Like this, you got this map. What are these places in the bottom? You got Luthadel, that's the main place. Then you got the Ashmounts. Tyrion, Zirana, Falis, Doriel, Morag, Calig, Tornost. They did not mention any of those names at all, I don't think. You got North Searan, the River Chanarel, Lake Tyrion, the Black Lake. Didn't mention none of that. There is a place that's really important because Vin, they have this guy who's like a shapeshifter or something, or he's like, what is his deal? He's a terraceman, I think. He's pretending to be this guy named Lord Renew, and she changed her name to Valette Renew, right? They're always going to this place, Felice. Not on the map. Where the fuck is Felice? I don't know. There's the Southern Islands. They mentioned that one time, but Did it mention the main city of Felice? They even got like a close-up view of Luthadel, the city map, which you don't really need. I guess there's a river running through the middle of it. Anyway, so you got like, this is supposed to take place in medieval times, but it seems more like steampunky times because of all the noblemen. Nobody's like wearing like medieval kind of clothes. This is just like the aristocracy and their slaves. It's not like peasants and knights with armor, metal. Nobody wears metal armor because of the people using allomancy is too risky. I mean, some of them do, then they get fucked. It's pretty dope when they're just like Spider-Maning around on them and kicking them off of ledges and shit. There's also a guy on the heist team. What was his name? Like Snoopy or some shit? Spook. He's kind of like got a weird country bumpkin, kind of retarded accent. And he's always like, it sounds kind of like Jar Jar Binks. He's always saying like, "Ising of the wasing was." Like, what are you talking about, you fucking weirdo? So it's like Brandon Sanderson. He must have been like, I'm going to invent a new language like Klingon or something, like all these other fantasy books do, Elvish. I want to make it a fucking retarded guy. It's like, it just kind of half-assed it. I don't know. So, too much aristocracy bullshit. There's that weird kind of language failed, and there's the cringy kind of young adult kind of feels to some of the flaring the metals. That's what I didn't like the most. But then after that, it got really good. So I'm looking forward to the next two books. But I kind of want to read Stormlight Archive or Skyward. Skyward sounds like something I would like, but it's actually not part of the Cosmere. So apparently when you get on these other books, they go to this land in the other book, and another book they go to that land, and it's like they're all kind of connected in all these different ways that you have to read them all to understand. So I don't know what the fuck Stormlight Archive is about. It's something to do with like a king and a lot of character development and world building, and I don't know, it sounds, everybody says this is the greatest shit in the world, so I guess I'll have to read it. So I got this picture of a young Brandon Sanderson. He was like way different looking back then. Looks like somebody I recognize. Who the fuck does he look like? He kind of looks like the Jewish guy on, what is his name? Ben Shapiro. He looks like Ben Shapiro, dude. What the fuck? He used to, anyway. Yeah, I don't know. I really liked it, but I just gotta give it an 8.